of wonky, but that's what happens when you have 3,000 people in tow for a Grand Prix. The perfect example of that, again, was last year Luis Scott Vargas coming into the round. He was in, I think, 14th place, and he won last round, and Luis didn't even think he was going to top 8. And all of a sudden, in 6th place, Luis Scott Vargas, and he's got to separate his deck and get ready to go for the top 8. So.
And even if you miss top 8, the finish, you're in the top 16. It's extra dollars, it's extra pro points, which is significant for PT invites for maintaining gold, platinum status, trying to qualify for Worlds. It all matters.
You know what? There's nothing like ending your tournament on a win instead of a loss, too. So both these players take a look at their opening hands. We said we weren't sure if we'd be able to top last round. We're going to try, as Dickmann's going to take a mulligan here. See if Chapin is happy enough with his hand. Players that are already locked in for top 8, it appears. Number 1 on the standings is Ian Bosley. 2nd place is Samuel Pardee. And 3rd place appears to be Zach Jesse. If you saw the Bob Huang deck tech with Nourishing Shoal and Gristlebrand, all that stuff, that's the same deck that Zach is playing. So all 3 of those players are 39 pointers, and then things get really, really muddy after that with 2 37 pointers in Michael Ingram and Michael Malone, and then a load of 36-point players, including these 2 right here. So really anything can happen. Among those 36-point players, we talked about Patrick Chapin, Patrick Dickmann, also Paul Rietzel, Riley Curran, someone who's had a lot of success on the Open Series.
For a lot of players on that list, top 8's not going to happen because of tiebreakers, but it is an opportunity to qualify for the Pro Tour.
Darian Elderfield, who we saw a little bit earlier, was playing ad nauseum. He is in the 11th place coming this round. Of course, this is a win-in for him. And I know a lot of people, when we were watching him, a big fan of that deck. So hopefully that'll make the elimination rounds.
And Chapin is the type of player where he definitely appreciates people who are a specialist in their craft.
Yeah.
Chapin's an exceptional Magic player, Hall of Famer, one of the all-time greats, but he really enjoys conversations with people who are very good at doing a specific thing. And I'm sure he's enjoying the opportunity to play against Patrick Dickmann in his element very much.
Simon Gertzen checking in, always a big fan of the former Pro Tour champion. Fantastic at coverage. He says, Chapin versus Dickmann at 12-2. Oh my.
Yeah, good one.
That's how we feel too, is things are going to start off here with a breeding pool. Chapin has a polluted Delta, and he's going to sacrifice that, go down to 19, potentially 17 in the process. And he will go down to 17 thanks to a watery grave. Perhaps it is Serum Vision's time. And it appears that it will be. So, of course, Chapin will draw a card, and then we'll have some scry action here in just a moment. Looks like 2 more Serum Visions here as Patrick will take a look at his hand. Lightning Bolt, Scalding Tarn among the options here for the Innovator. He'll leave both cards on top and simply pass the turn back over to Dickmann.
As long as Chapin believes that his mana is not going to be pressured too significantly in the short term, taking those Serum Visions is so nice. You get to set up additional draws, and of course, his deck just flushed with Delve Threats and Snapcaster Mages. The more cantripping, the better.
A Scalding Tarn and a passing of the turn there by Dickmann over to Chapin. Chapin has land number 2 in Sulphur Falls. Looks like that's what he may be deploying, and he will. Now it's time for another Serum Vision, so he'll draw a card. And there's the Serum Visions that he knew about. Now it's time to scry. He's going to split the difference here, 1 on top and 1 on the bottom. See if he wants to cast the other Serum Visions or not. Because one thing he does want to do is he does want to load up the graveyard a little bit because he is a Delve deck.
So definitely wants to load up the graveyard. Also wants to be able to spend his mana when it's not being taxed, and then turn 3, when Dickmann starts threatening the ability to kill him via Pestermite, Zero Exarch, and Splinter Twin. That's where he wants all of his mana available for counterspells, terminates, and whatnot.
Chapin split the difference again with that scry. The draw from Serum Visions, the third one, was a Terminate. What did he keep on top? A copy of Dispel, a card that's really good in this matchup.
Yes. Sorceries against Twin, once you start getting to turn 3 and turn 4, they're not very good. They can start to become pretty taxing. Even something as innocuous as Serum Visions, sometimes you can't find a mana laying around because you're trying to play around a variety of things. So it's very good for Chapin to spend his first 2 turns sorcery speed cantripping, and now he gets to hold up the wall.
It's time for a Pestermite. Dickmann going to play this on Chapin's upkeep. Chapin, I believe, says that resolves. What will you be targeting with that Pestermite? You see the Terminate at the ready here for Patrick.
I believe Lightning Bolt as well. It's
Yep.
got some answers here.
Looks like he might be tapping the Watery Grave with the Pestermite.
I really like that play because Chapin's removal for the Pestermite almost certainly involves a red card. So top the Watery Grave when you know he's going to be committed to tapping the Sulphur Halls.
Thought Scour's going to turn over 2 cards here. Looks like a Remand and a Vendilion Click. Now Chapin will draw a card. There's that Dispel.
Oh,
And there's the Shadow of Doubt. The draw again from the Dispel was, of course, the cantrip from the Thought Scour.
Yes.
And the Shadow of Doubt that you were excited about was the draw for the turn. And if memory serves, it was pretty good for Chapin a little while ago.
probably not going to be as awesome this time around. Maybe he'll tag a fetch land somewhere down the road, but my interest is peaked.
Lightning Bolt does take care of the Pestermite. Players are going to move the graveyards on screen for our viewers at home, get you a better look at what's going on here. And actually, it was a Snapcaster Mage, not a Vendilion Click that was Thought Scoured away. Either way, a blue creature in the graveyard here as we go back to Patrick Dickmann. He's going to play a Pestermite in the main phase. He will untap a copy of Steam Vents to cast a Serum Visions. That will resolve. He will draw a card. Misty Rainforest is what he's found. Now he gets to scry twice. Again, what's so interesting about this as he does resolve his scry is he is not that much of a Splinter Twin deck. Again, 3 copies of Deceiver Exarch, 2 Pestermites, and 3 Splinter Twins. But he is certainly playing right now like he's a very heavily invested Splinter Twin deck.
He gets to tax Patrick's removal for the time being. And, you know, there's not a lot to be done here. I think he knows that getting the combo executed is very unlikely. If it happens to come up, that's great, but I think he's just going to cast the Pestermite where there's good windows where he's not facing down pressure on the other side of the table and force Chapin to respond with removal, maybe frees up a Tarmogoyf somewhere down the line. You see Dickmann here very aware of the possibility of Shadow of Doubt fetching while Chapin is tapped out.
Perhaps the story has made Perhaps the story has made the rounds on the floor here at this tournament. Alexander Hayne got the bad end of that card, that's for sure. Chapin will take a draw. It's a copy of Lightning Bolt. Cheap and very, very effective. Looks like a Snapcaster Mage in hand, too. You know, a lot of people have asked us, is it possible to play a control deck in this format? Can you play a deck with a lot of cryptic commands? It looks like the answer is yes.
Yeah, but that said, Chapin's deck is more proactive than I think you would think of a control deck being.
For sure.
He still has, you know, 5 creatures in the deck that are devoted to just attacking.
The thing is, you got to be proactive. You can't just sit around.
Not in this format. Games are over too fast.
Chapin going to sacrifice a fetch land here.
I'm interested to see if, you know, Chapin right now has got an edge. He's fended off a couple copies of Pestermite. He's ahead on card count. That's kind of how he wants the games to go. I'm curious to see right now if he's willing to do something like Snapcaster Mage for Thought Scour at the end of the turn here, just to try to get something going. If he's getting a Watery Grave, that doesn't appear to be the case. But, you know, in these kind of blue matchups, when you're the one ahead on the board, when you're the one attacking, your opponent then has to play into your cryptic commands, into your remands. So there's a lot of value to be had with Snapcaster Mage because Chapin's spells are so powerful, but there is some incentive for him just to get something going here.
Yeah, because that's not pressuring the life total. That'll cause Dickmann to actually have to do something.
And now this draw is perfect because instead of firing off a Snapcaster Mage for low value, he's just drawn Tassiger, which he can play on the cheap if he wants to. I think he's going to hold off here for a little bit. And then initiate a lot of pressure and leave up his wall of counterspells.
Both players have 4 lands in play. And now he's going to initiate with Snapcaster Mage. And this is what you mentioned from the previous turn. And it can be something as simple as just, I'm going to recast my Thought Scour. I get a little deeper into my deck. Looks like Dickmann has some interest in remanding that. Chapin's going to dispel back because he'd like this to resolve. In exchange of resource, all on Chapin's terms.
Yeah, a lot of this is a concession to mana. Chapin wants to get to a spot where he can hold up Cryptic Command, and so exhausting all of his resources trading, leaving himself with 4 mana left over and the ability to critic command with some stuff in play, that's a good spot to get to.
Thought Scour the draw now here for Patrick Chapin. He'll start attacking. 2 damage will be dealt to Dickmann. He's going to go down to 14. Now here's a Tasigur. Chapin will have to delve away 5 cards. Leave himself with a graveyard that's worth something.
In most constructed Magic formats, we think of counterspells as, you want to save them for the critical spell. Modern, more than any other constructed format, mana becomes the concern. And even if you're not tagging the most significant spell, it was a remand on a cantrip. Chapin had the 1 mana laying around, and that's a good time to be dispelling.
So we'll see if Tasigur is going to resolve here or not. Now that the delve has taken place, it's in there. And Dickmann will take a draw step. Here's the Serum Visions. This will resolve. He'll draw a card, now scry 2. Electrolyze among the options here. Looks like Misty Rainforest is the other. And a nice little roast in hand. We had a feeling that would play a role in things if he's able to find it.
Yeah, that's one of his biggest cards in the matchup here. Because otherwise he is very exposed to Tasigur and Gurmag Angler. Requiring 2 bolts, those are tough exchanges.
We were asked earlier about maybe some new cards that have become modern staples that maybe surprised us. I think Roast is going to become a modern staple.
Yeah, there's just been so many high-impact 5 creatures printed, Tasigur, Gurmag Angler, Siege Rhino, that even though Flame Slash is more efficient in most circumstances, some of these 5 toughest threats are the best creatures in the format, or among the best creatures in the format.
It almost feels like Flame Slash has been pushed out of the format because of Tasigur and Gurmag Angler.
Tarmogoyf is another factor, too.
Yeah. Thought Scott were going to turn over a couple of cards. See if Roast is going to resolve. It does. Dickmann pass the turn back over to Chapin. Now the Tasigur is off the table. But Chapin's still got a pretty stocked graveyard over there.
Chapin plays this kind of game a lot better than Dickmann does. His deck is much better set up for this. What Dickmann's edge is, it's faster, he can combo out sometimes, but if we're just trading resources back and forth, Chapin's deck is much better.
At least game 1.
Yeah.
Here's a Lightning Bolt on Snapcaster Mage. That'll resolve. Chapin will pass the turn back with Cryptic Command at the ready. One of his favorite cards. It's been quite a doozy for him all weekend long. Dickmann will just pass the turn back. Might be time for Snapcaster Mage yet again.
And I'm sure Dickmann knows, too. A Grixis control deck with 4 copies of Terminate and a variety of 5 toughness threats, that's about the worst matchup he's going to run into game 1.
Yeah.
Where Dickmann has Splinter Twins and low-impact creatures without Splinter Twin, Chapin has cantrips. So, assuming Dickmann does not execute the combo, which is very hard to do, Chapin's deck is just much better for this sort of game.
Chapin starts with Steam Vents that enter the battlefield tapped. So, both players tied up here at 14. Now there's Scalding Tarn. Chapin will just pass the turn back. Patience, the name of the game here for the Innovator.
He's got no rush. With Dickmann missing land drops and having 4 mana up, the worst case scenario is that Dickmann gets off a powerful cryptic command, eats up Chapin's turn into a quality card. And so Chapin can just sort of slowly but surely leverage his advantage here, get a 2-for-1 here, a 2-for-1 there, and eventually Dickmann just can't keep up. He runs out of stuff to do.
So Thought Scour, Chapin going to target himself with the flashback. We saw Dickmann remand this last time. We'll see if he has any interest in doing that again. There was a small counter war over that the last time we saw this sequence occur. So keep in mind too, Dickmann's turns have been very fast. He's just drawn, looked at his card and said go. So not a lot doing there for the Teamer Twin player. It'll be a Snapcaster Mage. The nice thing here, if you're Dickmann, is you're able to make a play like this because your opponent doesn't have Twin in their deck.
Right.
So, he wouldn't be able to aggressively remand this like it looks like he's about to do if, under normal circumstances, if he was playing against a Grixis Twin deck, because if Chapin were playing Grixis Twin, he would say, okay, I'll play Deceiver Exarch, and then I'll play Twin, I'll kill you.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have to ever worry about that.
Yeah, that's a nice benefit here, although that's only the slightest of consolation, because I think Dickmann knows he's getting kind of slowly but surely ground down here.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with Chapin not having the combo in his deck. Everything he draws is just easier to cast and more likely to be influential than the cards that Dickmann's drawing.
So Snapcaster Mage has resolved on Thought Scour. Thought Scour is the card that Chapin can flash back. Dickmann, I think, just wanted to slide in a Snapcaster Mage. Now, Snapcaster Mage looks like it's going to be targeted by Spell Snare, so it's not going to make it in. So now Thought Scour is going to resolve. So Chapin will turn over a couple of cards here. Electrolyze is 1, Gurmag Angler is 2, and then he'll draw a card off of the Thought Scour cantrip, which was another copy of the Angler. Still has the Shadow of Doubt in hand. Perhaps he can pick a good spot for that.
Well, also, I think if he's picked up a Gurmag Angler, that's great news.
Yeah. A Lightning Bolt to draw for the turn. In comes Snapcaster. Dickmann going to go down to 12. Chapin takes the lead back as far as life totals are concerned. Now here's an Angler.
And now the clock is really speeding up. Dickmann had a lot of time when he was just getting hit by Snapcaster Mage, and Deceiver Exarch could be problematic for Chapin if Dickmann were to slide into 1-4, but now he's got very little time.
Yeah, we're on a 2-turn clock now, so long as this resolves. We'll see if it does. And it will. So we're going to head back Dickmann's way. He'll take a draw step. And we know that he's used his Roast. A Snapcaster Mage has been countered already. Here's a copy of Sulphur Falls. But you can tell by the body language there, he knows he's in some trouble right now. Game 1 just does not seem great for him.
Yeah, you want to be the one in a position to be used Cryptic Command offensively, not defensively, and it feels like Dickmann's getting to the spot where it's defense for him.
Chapin will untap and take a draw step. Looks like he picked up a copy of Watery Grave. He would like to start by attacking, but we might see a Cryptic Command here. Here's the attack. Cryptic looks like it wants to bounce the Angler and attempt to draw a card. Both of these players using the very powerful blue instant in their deck this weekend. Looks like Chapin has some interesting countering back. Perhaps counter and draw a card. A dismiss, if you will.
Yep.
Now that just furthers Chapin's card advantage engine along.
And Creeping Tar Pit is excellent for Chapin here, as it means that Cryptic Command no longer staves off the beatings.
Here's a Vendilion Click. This might be the Vendilion Click get information on the way out the door.
Yeah, I think so.
Especially with the tapping of mana using Ghost Quarter there a little bit.
He's doing it on the main phase too. I mean, I think he's just looking at the hand on the way out.
A Shadow of Doubt, a Lightning Bolt to terminate, and yeah, that's going to do it. Get some info and get out of this game because he's got about 33 minutes to figure out the next two. Patrick Chapin's going to win game number 1 here over Patrick Dickmann. Grixis Control up a game over Teamer Twin, and it really does feel like game 1 is certainly in Chapin's favor, but I think things are going to change after Sideboard.
Yeah, Dickmann gets the bail on the combo, which we'll get into momentarily, but game 1, his combo is very hard to execute in the face of all the removal and counter spells, and Tarmogoyf, his secondary plan, is also not likely to be good for much the same reason.
Sideboard time. We'd start with Dickmann, and I think he's going to bail in the combo too. He's got some nice options here. He's got a Keranos, got a Storms, 2 Thragtusk, a Desolate Lighthouse, a Dispel and Negate, a Counterflux. That's going to be big here. 2 Pyroclasms, 2 Ancient Grudge, a Nature's Claim, a Spellskite, another copy of Roast, which will also be big, and it is a Zadicaster.
Yeah, I think he needs to get away from the combo. I don't mind if he keeps a couple of copies of Pestermite in his deck just to be aggressive with, but I think Exarchs and Twins probably need to go. The copy of Roast should be coming in here, the Counterflux, the Negate, the Dispel, the Desolate Lighthouse, the 2 copies of Thragtusk, and the 1 copy of Keranos. Needs to get away from the combo and become much more of a control deck.
Got some nice options here.
Yeah, he's still, I think, behind a little bit, but the systemic problems with the matchup go away after game 1 if he can get the combo out of the deck.
On Chapin's side, he's got 4 Fulminator Mages, 2 Dispel, a Flash Freeze, a Counter Squall, a Slay, a Damnation in his Staticaster of his own, a Spellskite, a Shriek Maw, a Batter Skull, and his own Keranos.
So you definitely want the counter spells here for much the same reason the Dickmann wants them. I think you're going to see the Flash Freeze, the 2 dispels, the counter Squall come in. I think Slay is reasonable when you're playing against the Tarmogoyf build of the deck. Depending on how much he respects the combo, Chapin may or may not be bringing in Keranos. If you think that Dickmann is bailed altogether, Keranos is just another heavy hitter for a long game. If you think that Dickmann has left in some of the combo, it's a lot riskier because you're in spots where you have to tap out or tap low, and you're vulnerable to the combo getting executed. But I think the counter spells, particularly the 2 copies of Dispel and the 1 copy of Slay, seem like easy includes here.
Well, both players are going to go to the drawing board, and we are in a control mirror here for the most part, and time is going to be of the essence between these 2 players. Chapin did win game 1 relatively quickly, all things considered. So there will be about 30 minutes for these players to play. With Dickmann down a game here, he's going to have to speed up a little bit, and we know Chapin can play some fast Magic. We saw that yesterday. So these guys will get moving, I imagine.
Feels like Chapin kind of just flips the script when the clock gets about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And we see it really pick up. I don't know if he's got some sort of internal clock or buzzer goes off or something, but it definitely flips around that point in the match.
We've been playing Magic long enough. There might be that internal clock that you mentioned where it's just that I think time's a little low here. It's time to get going.
Yeah, and he conceded a little bit of, the plays weren't quite as sharp or confident in the 2 matches we watched when they got to the 15-minute point, but Chapin prioritized getting the match done in time, won both of those matches, and now is still alive for top 8. A draw would have undone him here.
Yeah, it would
in
have
either of those
a
matches.
true disaster.
Yeah, he would not be playing for top 8 right now. And that's the thing. Most control decks, when you draw a 3-game match, not all the time, but most of the time it was in a game that you would have won had you played it out to its natural conclusion. And it's often worth conceding a little bit of sharpness to make sure the match gets done in time.
Yeah, I know you had a conversation with Reed Duke about this in terms of miracles where, for you to play that deck flawlessly, especially for Reed, it's going to take some time. And you don't have all the time in the world. You got to get moving.
Reed's joke is, I've only played 1 game of Miracles perfectly in my entire life. I kept 7 and got killed on the first turn by Char Belcher. Because there's too many decisions to make, right?
Yeah.
But you still have to finish the match in time. And to that end, Reed is willing to concede maybe 1 shuffle operation with Sensei's Divine top, or maybe 1 extra look at a card with Ponder during some complicated chain of sequences to ensure that he just gets the match done in time. Because if he's drawing, it's probably in a match he would have won if he had more time.
He's just got to get it over with. A draw is so bad.
You don't have to perfect someone. You just have to play well enough,
Yeah. Well, game number 2. And the Patrick Mirror will be underway here in just a moment. Patrick Dickmann on your left, Patrick Chapin on your right. Grixis Control currently up a game here over Team or Twin. Of course, I am Cedric Phillips, being joined by Patrick Sullivan. We've got Ken Crocker and Nick Miller in the sideboard, doing your deck techs, your quick questions, picking your fantastic matches. And soon enough here, we'll have to really get to work, get some deck lists together, some pictures, some player profiles, and get ready for a top 8.
Our deck techs have been great. It's
Yeah.
been a mixture of great players playing their stock decks, great players playing somewhat unorthodox decks, and then some players you probably haven't heard of before with some sweet brews that are doing very well.
Very much so. Well, it appears to be game time. Both players will lay out their 7 cards. Dickmann going to very quickly keep.
And it looks like Dickmann has elected to draw.
Love it.
Settle in.
Love it. Who says you can't draw first in Constructed Magic? I truly love it.
And if Dickmann's choosing to draw, I gotta believe the combo's gone.
Combo's got to be gone.
He is settling in for a long game here. And I love it. And you know what I also love? I love that Chapin loves this.
Yeah.
I know that he appreciates an opponent who's got this move in his wheelhouse.
One of Chapin's favorite players is Guillaume Waffle-Tapa. And
Draws a lot,
Guillaume
right?
draws a lot when he plays
I
Magic.
believe it.
Because he always plays a control deck. So you got to believe that Chapin appreciates this.
Chooses to draw, respects Shadow of a Doubt enough to fetch on the first turn rather than waiting to the end of Chapin's turn.
Here's a thought scour. We'll
Chapin loves the specialists. He loves playing against the masters of their craft.
Terminate and Thought Scour are placed into the graveyard. Creeping Tar Pit looks to be the draw for the turn. Here's a Scalding Tarn. We might have a delve threat very quickly here.
That's 5 in the graveyard.
Yep. That's Tasigur range.
And Dickmann's analog to Tasigur is Tarmogoyf, which one, won't be nearly as large right now with Chapin delving away the graveyard, and second, is much easier for Chapin to answer than it is for Dickmann to answer this Tasigur. 2 copies of Roast, that's what we're looking at.
Now, what's interesting about this, you wonder if maybe this comes back to hurt Dickmann a little bit, because had he be on the play, he has access to a card like Remand.
Sure, but yes, you do open yourself up, but it's not like Chapin's going to have turn 2 Tasigur every single game. There's 2 of them in the deck, and it demands a lot of cantrips. But yes, this looks a little bit bad now.
It certainly might.
But if Dickmann has his Roast, then it looks really good all of a sudden.
Yeah. Skull Turn will be sacrificed. I imagine a red source will be on the way here. Ooh, well, pardon me. He has no interest in red mana. Give me an island, play around Shadow of Doubt, and pass the turn back.
And now Chapin's got shields up. Mana available, 4/5 attacking. This is the spot he wants to be in.
This was the spot that helped him beat Alexander Hayne last round to get him in this position. This round, as here comes Tasigur in for 4. Dickmann will go down to 14. A creeping tar pit and a passing of the turn. We're heading back Dickmann's way. He'll take a draw step here. There's a Sulphur Falls. Red mana not the issue. He'll pass the turn back. Chapin will untap. It's time for him to draw. He's asking, do I need to stop my upkeep or draw step for cards like Pestermite, Deceiver Exarch, or Vendilion Click? Land number 4 is a mountain here for the Innovator. And Tasker's coming in.
Chapin with the white bordered sleigh.
Here's Snapcaster Mage.
I have to assume this means that Dickmann has a lightning bolt for the follow-up.
That would be the assumption. And I actually like playing it now before the block happens. Because if this gets countered, okay.
Yeah,
then
you don't want to
block.
block.
Yeah. So this is smart. Now, obviously things can backfire here because if Chapin just says, all right, I'll terminate your guy, then it's bad. But Flash Freeze is going to take care of this, which means Snapcaster Mage says, okay, that's cool, I'll take 4.
Yep.
It's good sequencing.
Dickmann's still very behind in this game, but that's the right way to handle that sort of situation. Because Chapin either has to counter the bolt or kill the Snapcaster Mage before blocks for that sequence to get mucked up. And if he has a counter spell, then you can simply elect not to block, and you have a Snapcaster Mage still in play.
Land number 4 is an island. Snapcaster maybe feeling a little frisky. Yes, it is. In for 2.
Not ready to chump just yet, so might as well go on the offense.
Cryptic Command. Will that resolve? The answer is no. A big dispel there from Chapin. An island the draw here for Chapin. He'll play that. Tasker's coming into the red zone. Dickmann's going to go down to 6.
And keep in mind that Creeping Tar Pit's in play too.
Yep.
That's really rough here if Patrick Dickmann tries to block here. It's a nice card to have if Dickmann goes for Cryptic Command as well because the Tasigur gets tapped, but there's still an opportunity to activate the Creeping Tar Pit before attackers are declared.
Dickmann getting aggressive here with the Snapcaster Mage. Does not want to start chump blocking yet.
And Chapin, again, executing the game in such a way that he's the one on the front foot with Cryptic Command. Dickmann, the one playing defense with Cryptic Command.
And what's notable here, we're going to see if Chapin's going to activate Tasigur or not, because if he activates Tasigur, shields are down.
Right, there's an opportunity for Dickmann to perhaps resolve the Cryptic Command, get the Tasigur back into hand.
And Chapin's hand right now has got to slay a Snapcaster Mage and a Cryptic Command. So does he have any interest in making a move? The answer is yes. Thumbs up. Tasigur is 1. Don't get a great look at the second one. It's actually a terminate.
I like activating here because what's the worst case scenario? Dickmann goes ahead and Cryptics your Tasigur back and you have a graveyard that's stocked enough to recast it. He's tapped very low, so there's no threat of getting killed or having your Tasigur countered. So I like trying to pick up the extra card there. Get another card in your graveyard too.
Scalding Tarn the draw. There is a Tarn. Time to go to the attack step. It's a Pestermite. Looks like perhaps he left some things in here.
Well, I thought that Pestermite would stay in no matter what. Still could be in the combos in the deck, but choosing to draw with the combo in seems like an unorthodox setup. But maybe he still wants to be able to sneak that combo in.
Yeah. Trying to keep Chapin off balance, perhaps. Tasker looks like it's going to get tapped. Really feels like the first good turn for Dickmann.
Yep.
Everything else has gone wrong.
I think that Chapin's sense of this game right now is, as long as nothing crazy happens, I'm eventually going to get this one. And there's no reason to take any unnecessary risks. So if he wants to spend his turn doing that to me, okay, I can take the hit down to 9, activate Tassiker, go for an attack again next turn. But trying to pick a fight over something inconsequential and then getting exposed to Splitter Twin combo, getting your Tassiker roasted, what have you, Chapin's trying to avoid that.
Notable here that Dickmann is just, he's not letting up on the attacks. I suppose the thought process is I'm not going to win by playing defense.
Nope. This is a good opportunity, though. Chapin can go ahead, play Snapcaster Mage, perhaps target the Terminate, try to trade Snapcasters, and have a Terminate floating through the turn.
Very interesting. Looks like this is going to resolve. Snapcaster Mage will block. Maybe. What's interesting here is that there are a couple different things that Chapin could target in the graveyard. There's a Flash Freeze down there too, but it looks like he's opted to go with the Terminate. Going to go after that Pestermite. Pestermite might be biting the dust. And it is. Now he'll block. There goes Dickmann's resources.
And when you're asking why is Chapin blocking and giving up the potential lethal there, he knows that his Snapcaster Mage is likely to die do Light Bolt or some other blocker. He also knows that he's just got a huge edge as long as he protects his life total here.
Yeah. There's an island.
The one card he's worried about more than anything else is Cryptic Command. And the Snapcaster Mage is not worth that much in terms of attacking for lethal if what you're worried about is your team getting tapped via Cryptic Command.
That's a big play. That's a Thragtusk. Dickmann's going to go up to 10. I can undo a lot of the work that Chapin has done. However, that Slay that got turned on.
Yep. It's going to be good here.
Yep. He can slay the Thragtusk, which will effectively turn it into a 3-3, and then Tasker can keep trucking right on in.
Right. And this is another card that Chapin sort of preemptively played around by trading the Snapcaster Mages there. He knows it's just not that likely he's going to be able to attack for lethal with the Snapcaster Mage in play, and it's not worth valuing it too highly.
Alrighty, Tassiger, gonna untap. Will the Innovator. 6 lands, draw step on the way. Terminate, not bad. Now it's time to reassess some things.
Hard for me to give up Slay this turn.
You want to draw a card so bad. Chapin can do it.
This is such good sequencing too. Why do you lead with Terminate instead of Slay? So if he has Dispel, your Slay is the spell resolving, and not the other way around.
Yep.
And it doesn't really matter if, if he has no counter spell there. Well, whatever, both your spells resolve. It doesn't matter what order you're doing it in. But if he has a Dispel, now your Slay resolves and you get to draw a card.
Yeah, you'd love to draw a card. Dickmann should have a Beast token on the way here in just a moment from the Thragtusk dying, so long as he did remember his trigger.
It also leaves Chapin with 4 mana left over here, so he has the ability to activate Tassiker and leave up Cryptic Command.
Time to draw a card here for Dickmann. Picked up a copy of Serum Visions. He'll start there. Chapin will take a look at his hand and keep looking at that Cryptic Command that's been there for so long, and he has been so patient with it. Roast has been found. Dickmann, I believe, has another copy of Serum Visions in hand so that he can draw into that Roast. And there is Serum Visions. He'll draw the Roast. Scry 2. Don't get a great look at those cards. Looks like maybe Gataxian Probe is one of them. Does play 2 of those.
And I think the Roast here may be enough to draw the Cryptic Command out of Chapin's hand, which at this point you could argue is sort of clogging the hand a little bit.
A touch. Here is Roast.
He has the option of just saying, okay, I'll activate Tasigur, untap, and play another Tasigur, and still hold up the Cryptic Command, which may be juicy enough for him to still sit on it, but it also wouldn't surprise me if Chapin just took this opportunity to get the card out of his hand for good value.
He'll start with a Slay on the Beast token. Chapin will get to draw a card there. Now we'll see if Roast is going to resolve, and it will. So Chapin value in that Cryptic Command so highly.
And I think with another Tasigur in his hand, he has the luxury of allowing this one to go. If he had no other threat card, you might have seen a battle, but as it stands, he can just redeploy the other Tasigur, still leave up a lot of mana and a lot of counter spells.
And I think Dispel was the draw step here for Chapin, and that's a huge draw. Tasigur is a great place to start, but the ability to leave a Cryptic Command and Dispel moving forward is, boy, that's tough.
Yeah, that's asking a lot, Dickmann, to get through here.
Time to pass the turn back. We'll head Dickmann's way. He'll draw a card. He'll start with a Gataxian Probe. He's going to go down to 4 to cast it. I don't think he's going to like what he sees. Cryptic Command, Dispel, and Serum Visions.
It's a lot. That's a lot.
He'll write these cards down, but the body language has certainly changed because that is very hard to get through.
Tasigur on its own at this stage is asking a lot.
Yeah. Dickmann will draw a card from the Gataxian Probe. Tasigur activation as Dickmann has passed the turn already. He'll give something back to Chapin here. I believe a copy of Serum Visions. Heading back Chapin's way. Another Dispel, I believe. Either way, Tasigur is going to be attacking and wants to. Here's Pestermite. Now he's going to use the Cryptic Command. Finally.
And this is part of this is about using the Cryptic Command, but also part of this is getting to use a Dispel efficiently as well.
Dispel will counter Dispel, which means Pestermite does not resolve. Cryptic Command allows Chapin to draw a card, of course, since that did resolve. An attacker for 4 is going to bring Dickmann down to 2. There's a delta.
And remember, Creeping Tar Pit's still available as well.
It's floating around there.
Chapin hasn't even touched it this game. I think there was only one turn where it was close, but now something like Cryptic Command is no longer an answer.
Serum Visions draws a copy of Snapcaster Mage. Chapin will get the Scry, looking at Snapcaster Mage and a Remand. Those cards are both going to stay on top. Is this Dickmann's last turn of the tournament? It is. Patrick Chapin is going to win this match here over Patrick Dickmann. 2-0. Grixis Control will take care of the great teamer twin player. For Patrick Chapin, he moves on to 13-2. And with any luck, if tiebreakers go his way, we'll see him in the elimination rounds. You can tell these two players, a lot of respect for each other.
Yeah, Dickmann, I think, is a huge underdog in that matchup. It's a function of the combo being so hard to execute game one. Even in game two, when he's able to get away from it some, he's still casting Pester Mites. He's still got kind of the bad end of it. And a player as skilled as Chapin, he's just going to be able to navigate those games extremely well.